excited by having a reunion with Tara LaFawn Gooch, who is just a shooting star, and I can't wait for her to share what she's into. And really, the key to the program is getting some valuable takeaways that you can actually apply and remember where you got them from so you can get more when you need more. And with that said, I've also got Kelly, who's here every Thursday and is also the host of The Awesome Journey with Christy Howard. That's just a fabulous show helping uh, people of service, both in the military and first responders, and really focusing on mental health. And Tara's here. And why don't we, chat's open, depending on chat, to help us along here, make us more relevant. Tara, why don't you reintroduce yourself and tell everybody what's been going on?
Hey, everybody. So I'm Tara LaFawn Gooch. I published a book last year, so we can start there. And the book is How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. Here it is. And then just 2 days ago, not even 2 days ago, my first TEDx talk was published based on the foundation of my book in the first 3 chapters. So check it out. It's called Gratitude, the Foundation of Confidence, and it'll change your life.
Well, that's great. And I know when we first met, you were my first guest ever. You had reached out to me, my Christina show, and we just decided, hey, let's just do it. And we did Monday Fridays, and Tara just got huge as far as visibility, popularity. But you know what's so important is the true Tara gets to come out as someone has the microphone to themselves with time and with people who want to hear what they have to say. So it's really matching up. That's so important on programs like this, and showing up as yourself. Authenticity is so valuable. People want to be relaxed with relaxed people, right?
Yes.
So the more prepared and the more focused you are, the more tight the audience gets. And the looser you get, the looser everybody can get. So we're learning little nuances. But when we first started, you were just moving towards entrepreneurship, correct?
Yeah. I was in entrepreneurship. I think I had recently started entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I hadn't dipped my toes in a lot of waters yet. It's always a journey and a progress, but the live shows, what I will say about them, it's there's a lot of stuff out there that can be faked and fluffed and fudged, and you know what? People are smarter than that, and people want and crave an authentic person and message. And you know what? The best way to do that is on video. The very best way to do that is on live video, because nothing about this conversation, for example, is inauthentic. It's not scripted. We look at comments, we, engage with the audience, and people actually respect that and they want that. And in an age where there's so much fluff out there, if you can show up as your authentic self, that's a differentiating factor. That's how you want to be remembered ultimately.
Oh, absolutely. So what do you remember about your first shows here?
Well, we had so many together.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, we were we were the consistent people every Friday. Um, what I loved about it is it keeps you sharp. I will say that. Don, you are one of the smartest people I know. I'm not trying to inflate your ego, but you really are. You're so wise, and you have so many profound insights just, in business experience. So our banter back and forth actually helped keep me really, really sharp. So if I was to talk to a client, let's say, I would be ready. I just always felt ready to answer any question, always felt prepared, because you have that exchange of thought leadership, and it's like that sharpening of your tool set constantly. It's so important.
Oh, that is so profound. And the reason I say that is it's the versatility and flexibility in dynamic times
Yeah.
that makes you special. When people get thrown for a loop and they say, I have to get back to you on that, it's too late. It's already gone.
It's too late. Yeah.
Getting back to it, it's already there. It's not a choice. And I think as people, and I think looking back, when you look at what this has morphed into and evolved in so many wonderful ways, is our conversation was that back and forth, what's going on. And that's the kind of conversation you want to have, because you're with that person who you invited or invited you. If nobody else shows up, this is co-coaching. I call it co-elevating. So it's like, yeah, when you want to sharpen your axe, it's great to be up against or with somebody who's going to throw things at you that you didn't anticipate, and they're not bad things. Most of the programs that get huge ratings are, what happened here is like, why did you say that? Or how did you hear that? Or what's going on, versus bringing things up about a personal experience that brings professional value. And I think that's how one needs to project. So Kelly, uh, what's your thoughts now that the three of us are together? I love pairing just terrific people with terrific people.
Yeah, I mean, this is awesome. I mean, it is such a privilege to be here with Tara, and just, I mean, it is kind of a homecoming, which is super awesome. And so many things that both of you just said that I completely relate to and want to expound upon. A couple of things. Doing live streaming, because I worked in corporate America for a very long time, and I totally agree with you, Tara. When you're meeting with a client or prospect, you're prepared. I was always prepared of how to answer, how to respond, which really in theory, or really technically, you're not really present. You're waiting for them to say the thing so that you can say your thing. Your
Yes.
live streaming has really taught me about confidence in yourself. Like, being you is just fine. If I lose thought mid thought, it just humanizes me to the audience, because it does happen to me all the time. And but from a business perspective, it's like, man, I didn't realize how corporate I had become in just my day-to-day being.
Yeah.
And how live streaming has taught me again to be present, because the first time I did hear live, and being a marketing executive for as long as I have been and doing presentations, those are live, but you're prepared. I mean, and you can't prepare for a live. I mean, because when we first started, there was no topic, there was no anything. We just went live. And it seemed so intimidating, but it was just sort of like, we're just having a conversation, and it's resetting where we all should be, and that's being present in the moment, actively listening to one another, and
Mhm.
being okay with who you are, because that does help build confidence, and get rid of so many people these days with imposter syndrome, with job searching, and thinking they need to be like someone else, because unfortunately social media gives us an area where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, which is a slippery slope you do not want to get on, because you have no idea what the other person's path was to get to where they are. um, and it's just being comfortable with yourself and finding that confidence, which when you drop all those masks, for lack of a better term, because I think that's such a great analogy, is how much easier things are. um, it's honestly unreal. And we know the other thing about live streaming, and we are just saying this before coming on, is I don't understand why more entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or businesses aren't using it more, because seeing the authenticity and the genuine person or brand, however you want to say it, is so much more powerful than you writing great content, because your great content, again, is all about my interpretation at the moment, how I perceive your content. If I'm in a crappy mood or something just happened, I'm not perceiving your content the same way that you intended it. Whereas when you're live, and we can all say this, we've seen people speak and we're like, don't know what it is, but I'm not digging it. And it's usually because they're inauthentic, or they feel very scripted. And you can just tell when people aren't truly them, and it's off-putting, right?
Well, I think that's one of the key points is it's all about them to start with,
Yes.
right? No one cares about you until they know you care about them and what do you got for them? Because the people here in the audience are investing an hour today from what they could have been doing or have been doing. And how do you justify that hour so they'll want to come back for another one?
Yeah.
And it is the takeaways. It is the, if I could do it, you could do it. And it's so simple to do, you don't even have to be that special. But I think Kelly brought up some really quality points, is when you do 600 of these, and in Kelly's case, a couple hundred, we're talking to major generals. We both had Major General Glenn Abbott on our show. And
Greg
he's
Martin.
Greg Martin. Thank you. That's why Kelly said. And when you can go head to head and be with it and be above it, even at times, or when people come to you thinking you've got something more valuable that they want to have, when you talk to the everyday CEO, it's easy because you've already proven yourself around even significant people. And what happens is everybody who gets really good gets to be a better person and gets to be more people than a facade or an image or a title, because it's only where you're only as good as your last thought and action. Whatever that is going to create the next situation. And that's why I think staying sharp, having your own live stream, because it's like going on a circuit before you go to Hollywood or Broadway. You test things. And you know what happens here? If you do this enough, I've got pieces of Kelly, I've got pieces of Tara in me, that I've got ideas that I don't even know where they came from, but they came from someone. And it is like a marketplace, like, hey, I'll share my stuff. What do you got? Let's pick and choose and create more from it. And that's really where the next step is, the synergies of leverage.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we did. We started a collaboration group. It actually meets today. 7 of us who are live streamers get together every week, and hey, it could be what's your strategy, what you learn, you know, who'd you have on, and then people get syndicated, right? Someone sees Tara here and they say, Tara would be a great guest on Beverly's show. And with that said, let me recognize the most important part of the show, which is the audience. Beverly Glazer, wonderful person. She has done every Tuesday here. She's the anchor on Tuesdays for at least 4 or 5 months. She's a therapist up in Montreal, a coach for really high elite women over 50 empowerment. And that's what Tuesday is Women's Empowerment Day, because I'm tailoring the day to the person and what they're doing, right? And that's why there's more relevance, and the audience is not as big, but it's much more valuable. And ultimately, it's the content that gets produced during this time, not the audience. The audience makes it happen, but then it's where it goes and what the value is. And me and Kelly have been talking about repurposing, you know, with AI today, creating all kinds of shorts and playlists and you name it out of existing material. And that's where the residual income comes in. So Beverly says, hey, all just popping in, then it comes back with no nothing. Tara, live video is raw. It is what it is for sure. Carl, who does every other Wednesdays, part of the group. He's into finance, raising capital, and his show is Successful Funding. So people who are interested in that. Plus, when you get to invite people to events, you just go to the finance people, right? If you're into women's empowerment, you go to another category, because you can get 1,000 invites an event. And if you have 2 speakers, they can have 1,000. Mm-hmm. So the idea is, if you're going to be somewhere, share it, right? Make people aware of it. No one gets offended if they don't go, you know, on either way. We've got Omar here, who's part of Zoom party. He's a great guy, Omar. Actually, my grandson was on the show Sunday for Zoom party for kids. You know, he had a 10 to 17-year-old. So that's going to be shown in a couple weeks. It was taped. Thank you, Omar. Great guy. This must be Carrie. Good morning. Glad to see. No, it's Jason. You in this community, Tara, very busy these days. So happy for you. Jason usually comes on with Dave Snell.
Oh, yeah.
So he's on because of the military aspect. And a show wouldn't be right without Harvey Tuck. Harvey has been with us. Me and Kelly specifically are working on some really cool stuff. But Harvey came on the show in the audience, became an every other Friday person. 3 months ago, started the franchise show. Harvey's out in England, and Tara was just there. Should have connected the two of you. And he's the #1 franchise event, just blowing it up. And it's so great to see what Kelly said is this is so simple. If you have the right group, if you get some training wheels, if you know best practices, because LinkedIn is still important to LinkedIn Live. You just can't show up and then you're there. So thank you, Harvey. Look forward to seeing you later. So Tara, a lot going on here. Tell us about England. You said you were really impressed with it.
I loved it. In the United States, what's old to us is 200 years old, right? But you are walking in downtown London, and all of a sudden there's a wall that was built by the Romans to keep the Saxons out. I mean, it's just so old. And I'm a history buff. So I delivered my talk in Nottingham, England, saw Nottingham Castle, hung out with the Robin Hood statue, took pictures. But the oldest operating pub in the UK is a place called Ye Old Jerusalem Trip. It's in Nottingham. We had dinner there one night. It was established in 1189 AD. It was christened by King Richard the Lionheart on his way to Jerusalem for the Crusades. Holy cow, it blows your mind, and it is so cool. But I loved England, and the best part was the people that I met, though. I mean, the sights were great. The food was nice. It was amazing. It was about the people.
So doing a TED Talk in England, how different is that? Does that have any impact?
Oh, yeah, I would think so. It's a different level. It's international versus national. It's showing that you are an international person. And, ultimately that's what I want to be. I want to be that world influence, and not just have a local impact, but have that worldwide reach. And part of it's writing a book, building your personal brand on social media. But then another part of it as well is getting your brand on a stage like TEDx. And how can you really grow your brand in front of that audience now? So it's about using your voice, sharing your authentic message and story, and getting it out to as wide of an audience as possible, because we never know who's watching. On that YouTube channel, they've got about 40 million subscribers, and they're thought leaders. These are people that are influencers. These are people that are, influential. How can you get your message on that platform now? So it's all about just figuring out different ways to grow your reach and share your story authentically with the world.
Well, what you also open up is the opportunity to support people who do that or want to do more of it, right?
Absolutely.
The coaching part of it, the preparation, the sounding board, and the other element is understanding how to influence influencers to influence other people, right? And that's what this show is about. At one time, this show grew to 350 comments during the show, but it was a mob. It was just people there having fun somewhere and following each other. And when you got to wanting relevance, wanting to be more specific in who you're having conversations with and who are having conversations with you, then you find out that 7 or 10 people doing things by plan and purpose instead of by accident. Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and it's going to come down to time and cost efficiencies, return on investment, cost of inaction. If you want it all, right? If you're just there for the cream, hey, you can have some fun, and maybe it's even easier if all you want to do is have fun, because you'll probably even make more money becoming less pushy. Everything really needs to move to pull,
Yeah.
right? Where people already know, like, and trust you. Now it's timing. And at a certain point, you get into blue ocean because you're not like everybody else. And you paid a premium to get known. They say get known before you're needed, right?
Mhm.
Because to your point, you never know.
You never know. I like that. You have to be ready. You have to stay ready. I feel like there's a lot of reactivity out there. And
Yes.
and guess what? Reactivity costs you money.
Yep.
When you're proactive, it costs an investment, but it's an investment. When you're reactive, I promise you it costs.
Yep.
There's a big difference there. And this is a lesson for anybody that's an entrepreneur, even if you're in corporate.
Yeah.
And you are questioning, should I show up online? Let me ask you, what benefit is it if something happens to your job tomorrow, because there's no such thing as predictability, right? Wouldn't you rather have some kind of a safety net, have some kind of a community built, have some kind of a networking structure in place? It's how you stay relevant. It's how you stay, as you said, Don, top of mind, right? So that when something happens, when that change occurs, maybe in life, that you're the person that they think of. And maybe it's because you're an entrepreneur, but maybe it's also because you're just a human being and you want a plan. It
Yeah.
can help anybody. Anybody should benefit. And it's a reactivity mindset versus a proactive mindset. And we all need to be proactive.
Amen.
Absolutely. Kelly? Well,
Yeah.
here's Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Glad to have you. One more thing, because Harvey's our English ambassador. Carol Gooch. That would have been lovely to meet up in Old Blightly. You make an interesting point about all the history. Hopefully, we have learned a thing or two in that time. With LinkedIn Live, it's the same. It's using the history. It's using the history and experience of others who did it in the past. Also, we nearly rented a house built during Henry VIII's reign. I could stand up in low ceilings back then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Harvey, for bringing a little bit more to the party. So, Kelly.
Yeah. I mean, so cool. That was a nice little offshoot. Thanks, Harvey. Yeah, I mean, so many things there, proactivity and reactivity. I mean, two huge things in the corporate world, particularly. I've worked with many startups that were always in reactive mode. And it's like, we're never going to scale or move forward until we get to be in a proactive space. And then there'll generally be a space of reactivity to some level.
Yeah.
Because again, you can't predict everything. However, one of the things that made me think about LinkedIn wise is an example for myself being in financial services, specifically in Reg D products. Those aren't for public. So a lot of what I did service wise, I couldn't post anything because it was for accredited investors only. It could only be sold through the broker dealer channel, yada, yada, yada. And LinkedIn used to be really just basically your online business card.
Yep.
And to reach out to some connections, but it's changed so dramatically. And what I started in 2020, specifically in 2021, and really before the world had shut down in 2020, was more of a, oh my gosh, I've spent my entire career marketing others and getting them to be thought leaders and all of these things. I haven't focused on myself at all.
Yep.
And so I was like, I need to start doing that, which I did. And, even have a top leadership voice badge. So it doesn't take a lot of time for you to make a difference. And Don did that. He got to 37,000 followers by by posting daily. He had a goal in mind, but taking the time to focus on your own presence and your own brand, because we are our own brand. And remembering that regardless if you consider yourself an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, what have you, A lot of people who have been struggling to find work, and I unfortunately know a lot who have been out of work, not just for a month or two, but for months to over a year. And now are having to look at a place of, hey, why don't you try to create a job while you're looking for a job, or create a business while you're looking for a job, which is the importance of your profile in getting what do you want to do. And I've referred to myself as an accidental consultant because as a marketing executive, guess who was one of the first people to get laid off in 2020? You're looking at her. And I could not get hired as a marketing executive because nobody was filling those spaces, because there was so much uncertainty in the market. But I had to find a way to make ends meet, and that was a whole thing of I had people reach out, "Hey, one, I've seen you on LinkedIn. You're all over my feed because I see you on LinkedIn Lives all the time. Would you by chance be willing to help me with a small project?" So it did lead to me getting consulting work, um, which wasn't my immediate intention, uh, but hence why I say accidental consultant. And it's just continued to work in that way. Hey, work on your profile, your branding, um, and look at other people and what they're doing. If there's somebody that you like what Tara does, like, oh, I want to follow her and see what her approach is. There's nothing wrong with that. Be inspired by others. I think one of the things that I'm sure other people would like to know, because I have quite a few folks that will say, "Oh, my goal is to do a TEDx talk. Like that's just my goal." But they have no idea what that actually looks like. How do I make that happen? So, to swing it back over to you, Tara, and then to put that into a question, did you ever think of the TEDx first, or was it just kind of everything else led to TED? Oh, I like that.
Ooh, that is a great question. So last January, I applied to TEDx for a friend of mine. I did not think of myself as a TEDx speaker. So you can actually apply for yourself, or you can submit others to be considered. I submitted someone else. Fast forward in June, so 6 months later, I'm writing my book. It's still in a Word document on my desktop. I really haven't started talking about it that much. And I tell somebody about it, and this person tells me, that's a TEDx idea. That's a TED idea. You should speak on the TED stage. Never it occurred to me that I should or could or whatever do this. I didn't think about it. So I said, okay, I'll apply or I'll send in whatever. I didn't actually apply, but that's a different story. I got in. So from 3 weeks from someone telling me, you should consider doing this, to then I got accepted. That was easy. What wasn't easy was 6 months of planning, speech writing, rehearsals. I think I rehearsed that it was almost 14-minute speech 150 or more times.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
good for
And
you.
then refining it. And so, it's very much like writing a book, this whole preparation time. But now there's work, even though I'm done the speech. Now the work is post-promotional campaigning, getting the word out, PR, marketing efforts, right? And that's where a lot of authors fall short, and that's where a lot of TEDx speakers fall short as well. They're not promoting enough ahead of time. They're not building in public. So I would have posts talking about my journey. Hey, I just saw a nutritionalist because I want to look good on stage. Hey, I just met with this person who helped me pick out this outfit. What do you think? Literally letting people into that process, talking about my failures, talking about when I had to rewrite my entire speech that I had already memorized because it wasn't quite up to the brand of TED. Okay, what do I do? How do I express this to people? And then by the time now it's published, people are like, where is this talk? Where is this talk? How do I find it? So that there's already that top of mind awareness for it. But now the real work has just begun, because now it's promotional, and just getting that word out. But it's been a journey, and it's, definitely, if this is something that you're into, if that's a goal for you, you can absolutely do it. And I will say this to everybody, a gold nugget is do not apply to a TEDx or TED without an idea. If they may look at your credentials and say, "Ooh, looks good. Looks like this person is qualified." Their next question they're going to ask you is, what are you going to talk about? And if you don't know what you're going to talk about, it sounds so easy, right? But it's so true. If you
Yeah,
don't know what you're going to talk about, why would they hire you?
right. So true.
Well, and
So
I think what you highlight is there's a before, during, and after to everything. Some people just show up, do their content, let it blow in the wind, keep doing it,
Yeah.
and they think that, hey, this is easy, but it's not effective. You
When
know,
I think people believe, and this is just my interpretation of this, because post promo is something where I think a lot of people drop the ball. But specifically talking TEDx, I think people think I just did a TEDx, like I did it, and like I'm done because I did the TEDx. It's going to take off.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
which
not.
is yeah, like, and I love that you brought everybody into your story up until the TEDx, because now I'm so connected in a way because I'm personally invested now because I'm like, ooh, I got to help she picked the outfit that I said I liked the best, or what have you. But post promo for so many things, I think people miss the boat because even on live streaming, um, I do post promo of all of our shows, and we'll re-promo them even later, just based on other things that are going on. Because a lot of people can't make the live sometimes. You know,
That's
life happens, and it's like, but hey, and I get messages for this a lot. You know, oh, I'm so bummed, I'm not going to be able to watch that. No worries. Here's you can watch the replay. And we get a lot of replay. So don't think because, and that's another thing to take away from live streaming. If you see the number and you're like, oh man, I've only got 12 people here that are live, don't worry about it. Like, one, it's on other platforms, most third party tools like Restream. We can't see who's on all platforms at all the same time. We see who's on LinkedIn. So, you know, be careful of how you interpret some of the information, but knowing that post promo, and like Don had alluded to earlier, is the content out of just one episode or one TED talk. You know, the excerpts that you can take from there are freaking endless.
endless.
Yeah, repurposing is, I mean, is key for so many things. And don't think just because you're finished with the big show that it's over, because it's not over.
It's not.
And I think it's such an important thing that you said too about presentation that you practiced 150 times. Um, because the sales teams that I've been involved with training over the years too, it's the same thing. Y'all need to practice live with someone over and over and over and over again, because and you need to film yourself and watch how, you know, how animated are you, what do you do, or am I staying in one place, and when I'm in front of live people, do I freeze, and reach out to people who are going to give you honest feedback. Like, I think that's so important to be able to be, because sitting here in front of a live stream is a 180 from a live presentation.
Oh yeah.
And I think people think, oh, it's the same. No, it's not. It is nowhere near the same.
well, you know, I think that, you know, what impresses me about the three of us is our work ethic and our attention to detail, right? That it's never right. It's always getting better in some way. And the other big thing is if your why is big enough, you'll figure out the how to. So you got to really start with the why, because that's going to get you over the trials and tribulations. If you're doing it because it's for somebody or somebody's or something more important than you don't have a choice, right? When it's just about you, it's like, hey, I can forgive myself. I can forget what I just did if I want to. But here's the thing. Time is so valuable. And it doesn't wait for you, and the world isn't waiting for you. So while you think you're on pause, you're the only thing that's paused, right? And when you get back into action, you still got to show up. And ultimately, if it's not this, it's that.
Yep.
Right? If you're not doing this, you're going to be doing that and making that and living like this. And usually that's a clue to say, hey, let's start redirecting our time, attention, and effort. Or if we don't know, get with the people, buy a few vowels. I mean, there's so many people that will waste so much time and spend so little money on themselves because they want to say I didn't lose. I've been on LinkedIn 3 years. I didn't spend a dime. I haven't lost a thing except for 3 years worth of time, thought, and effort when you could have got somewhere in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I think a takeaway, find your core competency and don't stray from it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Find other people's core competency you can bridge in an informal, just-in-time, pay-for-performance way. I love the way you said yes. Tara, why don't you share?
Yes. 100,000%. Yeah. Like, I literally could not agree with you more. Rich mentality, so that abundance, wealth mentality is, there is nothing more valuable than my time.
Yes.
Right? My time, my health, my relationships, right? Very wealthy mentality.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to stay where you are, keep doing the exact same thing you're doing and expect the exact same results. Let me tell you something. If you don't invest in yourself, you will get zero return, but worse than a zero return, it's actually negative because you lost time.
Yeah.
And going back to the rich mentality, there's nothing more valuable than your time. So if there are things that you can't do that go outside of your core competencies and strengths, then you outsource them.
Yes.
Because if you do not, you're diluting yourself, you're diluting your message, you're wasting time, and ultimately you're not impacting the amount of people you can impact, which means you're not going to succeed. And then you're stuck in this cycle. You have to absolutely work with people that complement your strengths, that have a supportive structure to them where they aren't that maybe they're good at something that you're not.
Yeah.
Find those people and invest in yourself, please.
Well, on the other side, one has to be particular on who they accept,
Yes.
colleague or
Oh,
client,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Because people's energy level,
Yep.
people's attitude will affect your attitude. So everybody needs to qualify to each other,
Yep.
for each other. And what I find is that one way of getting who you want is over-serving and sampling quite a bit.
Mhm.
Right? Because somebody will say, well, I don't see the value. I'm not going to spend money. It's like, well, I'll treat you, right? But you'll get the same value. One thing about it, I believe I do, and a lot of people like me do everything they can, no matter what the money is. Right? So it's like, if you would have paid me more, I'd have given you more. No, I've been giving you everything I got, the best I got.
That's
Yeah.
right.
At a certain point, though, you find who you're dealing with by what's the return for it.
Yes.
Right? Do people get entitled, but then they're squandering time and money all over the place? And that tells you the character of a person, right? The integrity where someone says, you bought me lunch 8 times. I'm going to buy you lunch today.
Woo woo.
Just to show that, hey, I acknowledge something and I appreciate it. I want to share something because everything on social media is based on being reciprocal.
Amen. It's
Mhm.
all about reciprocation. I can't say that enough. I talk about that all the time. There's so much entitlement out there.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And it's like, that can be a differentiating factor. I think there's a lot of, again, going back to entrepreneurs that are so worried about, being the next unicorn. How can I create the next best product or service that blows everything out? You know what? How about you just reciprocate? How about you just elevate people? How about you just be authentic? These are all free things.
Mhm.
Right? And they're actually quite enriching to the self, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's weird to me only because it just seems so normal in the sense of reciprocation and true connection, which was another thing that I really focused on when I started doing the live streaming. Was I wanted to be purposeful in my networking. I wasn't caring about numbers. I just wanted people, hey, we might not be able to do business now, and but I think you're a great connection. Love what you're doing. I actually know someone that I want to connect you with. I do connections behind the scenes all the time. Hey,
Yeah.
you need to know this person. And I have had people say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that. What do like almost they feel like what do I need to do? Nothing. Like you honestly need to do nothing. Um, but when you watch it come back, because that does obviously happen, because I do believe what we give out into the world does come back to us a lot of times tenfold, but not doing it with the intent of that. Because watching some of the things now that are reciprocated, honestly, on an occasion blows my mind. Um,
Yeah.
but it's because it's genuine. I have no, I'm not promoting your product because I'm trying to make money off you or I'm trying to do anything. I just think it's rad and I want people to know about it. And I love your mission. I love what you're supporting. And that's the whole thing with veterans and first responders, with what Christy and I are doing. It's simply because we're like, they deserve a platform where we can talk about mental health, because it has such a taboo and a stigma behind it. And we just want to bring spotlight on it and have people know that they're not alone. And that was like the whole genuine approach. There was no, and even like this, there was no thing of like, well, Don, when are you going to start paying me for showing up every week? I mean, it was never that. It was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it, and I love seeing what's happening with the audience, how things evolve over time, and really learning from it. But it is also the connection because the way you connect with people on a live stream, same when you're doing a Zoom call, it's such a different connection than a lame, and I will tell you again, lame email chain that you are sending automated to my inbox, which is doing zero for your business. And then people will say, well, I gained some clients out of it, but I guarantee you you're losing more because you are turning people off permanently. So stop the pitch slap. That's one of my biggest pet peeves that I do talk about a lot. So small digression, but going back to the whole thing of meaningful connections and reciprocity. What are we here for if we're not here to help one another?
Amen. Amen. It has to be reciprocal and it's giving without the intention of receiving, right?
Yeah.
Just give. When there's a power to that because that's where real deep and profound gratitude comes from.
Yes.
When you're able to give without the intention of anything getting anything in return, that's when you're truly grateful. It's not enough to give and
Mm,
then expect because you know what? That's where resentment comes from. That's where jealousy sometimes comes from. That's where disempowerment comes from because then you stop giving.
yes.
It's giving without that expectation of anything in return. And you're talking about your work with vets. I already know somebody I want to introduce you to. So right after this call, right? And I don't I don't care what
Right.
happens after it.
Right.
It's literally about when I wake up every day, I don't ask myself, how am I going to make my business make $1 million a year, build 2 million, 5 million? What I ask myself is, whose life can I change today? Today,
Yes.
I could change somebody's life. And I
Well,
mean that with all sincerity.
I
And
know
yes,
you do.
profits will come, I promise you. And that's part of that
Right.
tenfold that comes back. It's giving with the intention, a super high level of intention to literally change and transform people's lives. I promise you profits come and they happen tenfold.
Yeah.
well, and I think this is so valuable because people are always putting the cart before the horse.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see, I see giving for the purpose of getting a reaction, not getting something in return, because you want to find out as soon as you can who you're dealing with. One thing I know about live streaming, and Kelly can attest to it, we've been on at least 100 shows together, and
Mhm.
we've seen people come and go, come and go, come and go. And before some people showed up, I saw their profile, I
Yeah.
saw their body of work, I saw their credentials, and I said, wow. And after they were here, I said, how empty and superficial
Mm.
that I would have never known. Because if you're going to judge the book by the cover, no one starts with a cover. People start with a couple pages, and then eventually they have a book, and eventually maybe they find a cover for it. But LinkedIn Live for an hour, you can't escape. And if you do, then you're missing the boat, and everybody else is missing your boat. So I think the key is you got to get honest with yourself first. You got to be as good as you can for yourself before you're going to be good for anybody else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to demonstrate overwhelmingly the distinction and differentiation from yourself to everybody they're used to. And then it becomes, you don't have to work that hard or that long, and you don't care at a certain point. It is a sorting business. Some will, some won't. So what? But the more you do, the better you'll do, and the better you'll do, the less you'll have to do, right, in time, because then things start coming to you, and now you decide, well, who do I want to include in my week this week? What activity would make me feel like I'm more of what I want to be versus time for money, money for time? What do you got? Because until, people who always tell you money's everything never had money, or
Yeah.
they never say that. It's the people who don't have it that someone says, if you ever get it, and lottery winners are a prime example of that, right? And they demonstrate that all the time. I think to Tara and Kelly's point, it's really, who do you know? Because your network is your net worth, right? You don't need a lot if you know people that have a lot who would be happy to help you in an authentic, genuine situation.
Yeah.
So that scarcity is, when is $1 million enough, and you don't need the second million? And some people, the insecurity only grows. They do say money makes good people better and bad people worse.
Yeah.
Right?
True story.
So Tara, we're almost 46 minutes into this. This thing is just
Time
popping.
flies.
I think I just love it though. It's, this is a conversation. And again, this is the importance of finding a network with aligned values. Your follower count, newsflash, doesn't matter.
Nope.
Likes, newsflash, doesn't matter. Comments, even. What
Yeah.
matters is who is in your network, who is watching your content, who's supporting your content. The amount is irrelevant. It is this is truly a quality game. And you know what? When you come on LinkedIn, it's any social media platform is designed to be addictive. They're all designed to,
Oh, yeah.
send you with rushes of dopamine. Okay. They're all designed for that hamster wheel kind of sensation. Don't get glitzed and glammed by those numbers.
Yes.
It's about the true alignment of values of people and that genuine human connection and community. Proof right here. Because if you have 100,000 followers, but they're all empty connections and share none of your values, maybe, and I've seen this in the past too, you connect up with a bunch of people, you don't look at their content that they're posting first or what they're commenting on other people's posts. Watch that before you connect with folks, because if someone is a bully to someone else, they're going to do it to you.
Mm-hmm.
There are things in people's profiles and their content and their activity that I look for before I hit accept. And it's values. I look for driving values. What is a message? Do they have intentionality? And if the answer is no, it's ignore.
That's exactly my approach, because first thing I look at is posts. And the second thing I look at is how often.
Yep.
If they haven't posted in 3 months, they're never going to post for you if they don't post for them. It's activity. Who's busy? Who's involved? Versus, hey, he was a doctor for 32 years, made $100 million. So what? That's him. And I think the other key thing is the only number that matters. I've got 37,000 connections, right? And I know you have 33. Is the people you're working with or could be working with out of that. and it usually comes to 20, 30, 40 at tops. And it could switch. And the other thing is, where I got them from is because of where I was at when I went after them.
Hmm.
A numbers guy. I was like, more is merrier and bigger is better. But then when I got better, I decided I wanted to be with better, and not as a judgment on people, but who can make me sharper? Who's going to be a workout buddy? Who's going to make me run faster because I'm running with them? And then who do you need at a certain point? Because transitions take place. You know, you get somebody for fashion, and then you need somebody for hair, and then you need somebody for costume or whatever. But everybody can play a role. And the idea is to continue to support everybody
Hmm.
when you believe in them. And one rule of thumb with connecting with people, if I wouldn't have a conversation right after connecting, I won't connect, because I've already limited the extent of it. And I guess maybe that's a distinguishing factor between a connection and a follower, right? If one was to make that, because a connection is you just connected, right? Your first connections. A follower is somebody who watches you, who reads your post, who comments to you. And you know what happens? Followers get recognized. And all of a sudden they get, you know, if someone's doing a lot for me, I'm going to reach out and thank them. I'm going to be open to a call to find out why they think what they think, and valuable feedback. If you're on a two-way street, it's got to operate two ways, right? It isn't, it started two ways, now it's my way. And I think humble and humility is so important here. Is don't try to get people to where you are, meet them where they're at if you really want to get with them. And I think the story tells, because not only don't you know who's watching this, you don't know who's watching this who knows somebody.
Yes.
Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, just so true on so many different levels. And I 100% agree with what you're saying, Tara, about, you know, the connections mattering. I mean, just because you send me a connection request, it does not mean I'm accepting it. And I believe that in my business approach. And I will say that's something in 2020 that re-exemplified within me is,
Mhm.
you know, I'd worked so hard in my career to make it to where I was, and it was not an easy path, but I worked my tail off and then I earned it. But on the same token, when I got there, I was sort of like, this isn't as grand as I thought it was going to be. And I was looking at some of the people that I was working with, and I'm like, they're just not good people. Like, morally, ethically, I do not align. And I want to be able to surround myself with people that morally and ethically align with me. They don't have to be the same frame of thinker. I love people and I'm curious by people. So I don't want to surround myself with people who think like me, because how boring, and no expansion. But really being purposeful and meaningful, and do pay attention to who you're connecting with and what people are posting, because there are some people, I've had a few people of late try to connect with me and say, hey, I would love for you to be an admin at our veterans page who helps job seeking. Well, it's a facade. It's a BS thing. You have to pay attention. And my feeling was like, you don't even know me, but yet you want me to be an admin. Clearly you want to use my connections, and there's got to be something else, which there was. But we dug into it a little bit to figure it out. But pay attention, because unfortunately there's not all good people out there. And it matters who is in your crowd. And I 100% agree. It's not about numbers. It's about the quality of it, and people who also inspire you. I mean, I go and I get inspired every single day by people's posts, because I've got great people in my feed. And helping celebrate one another. It's such an easy, seemingly thing to do, but I think people can tend to be afraid of being authentic and genuine, because I've got to act like this because that's what other people are doing. Nope, nope. Vulnerability for the win, and authenticity, genuine, those things for the win every single time. You cannot go wrong. I promise you that. So that's my thought this right now. And I can't believe an hour has almost gone by.
Well, here's what I'd like to add, and it demonstrated itself just a little while ago when Tara said, I know somebody who you need to know,
Yes.
is the ultimate position is being a super connector.
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And now you're not talking with 7 or 10 people working together. You're talking 7 people who have their 40, right? And now you got 280. And having a show like this is allowing me to pair some super people up with some super people.
Yeah.
The other day we had Mary Gardner, who's like at the top of the
Yes.
list of
Love her.
people who book people. Next week we're having Todd DeWitt back, who is like number one. He's got 44 courses being sold. Just an amazing man. And whoever, and actually, Khan is starting his show next Friday. So he's going to do 4
Yay.
shows. Khan joined our group, and he's going to be with Todd. And they'll get to know each other because, the reason Khan's doing it, he's launching his book in 4 weeks. And he wants to give it the full court press to it and get as much out. And I think that's where teaming up, when you can actually design an undesigned performance. So strategically, you can say, what do you want to get across? And it's always the host that's better saying, let me share what Tara's doing, or you got to tell people about this. And it weaves in without being salesy, but with being aware and informative. And I think that's so important. And it gets to the point like, who would you like to be on the show with? I can get them if you can't or you don't want to. And then you have a common ground that we get to know each other for an hour, bantering maybe a little back and forth. And something comes out that says, you're somebody I want to get to know better. Because the key is doing more business with less players, right? You'd rather have 10 people instead of 100 that you can really focus, have some long-term capabilities, and then share the success. Because here's the thing, if what you're doing has so much value, no one has to make money off of each other. You make money with each other and for each other, right? If you're doing great, there should be enough, at least in learning. So Tara, coming up to the end of the show, you've been more than I thought, and I thought a lot before I thought about more.
I always give plenty ideas, Don.
Love it.
So what'd you think about the show and where it's come from when you first helped launch it?
Yeah, it's fun. It's I don't do a lot of shows with more than just me and a guest. So 3 people is fun. It's a different level of energy, but
Yeah.
it's cool, just again, I think we said a lot of high level things. So, it can be a lot to grasp. I encourage everybody to just rewatch this because a lot of gold nuggets were given that could save you months or years of time, literally. And going back to abundance, wealthy thinking, what's more important? There's no more valuable resource than your time, period.
Amen.
And we don't need to settle for average. The thing about when you're a lone wolf, you have to settle for average. You can't gather collective wisdom. You can't gather collective resources. You don't have encouragement. You don't have support. There's no glory in being a lone wolf. The glory comes from being in a group, a team that's solidified, that's built on core values, that's built on alignment, that, wants to give to others and, be reciprocal. There's where you get your glory. So don't think you have to know everything. We weren't born knowing everything. We weren't born knowing how to market themselves, I'm pretty sure. Nobody has been born with these things, but we find people. The good news is we don't have to learn. You find people that are aligned in your values who already have those strengths, and then they help elevate you.
Amen.
There's power in that, and we can all learn from that. Yes.
Oh, and I think learning is everything, because that, your security is what you know and who you know, because stuff can get taken and given overnight and it had nothing to do with you, circumstances.
Yeah.
But no one can take what you've done away from you. What's in the books is in the books. The people you know are there for you. And that's why it gives you an opportunity to build a chosen family.
Yeah.
Right? Some people got pot luck in the family they happen to be dropped into, but that's just blood relatives. But here you can find 7 or 10 people who you see, talk to, and really get substance from over even your family members. And why not have it all? Why not bridge so many things that your eggs aren't in one basket? Like you say, you're not a one-trick pony with me, myself, and I, because that's scary.
Yeah.
To wake up and say, all I have is me after all these years.
Oh.
I didn't get membership, admission, or I didn't get past the gatekeeper. And you know what? Become your own gatekeeper. Don't wait for someone to let you in. Open your gate and let other people in. So Kelly, well, I have one more comment from Harvey. The fantastic thing about doing LinkedIn Live with an audience or community-driven show is about facilitating others, be that the guest or audience, bring others up. The other fantastic part of this way, public conversation, no rehearsal, so true. So Kelly, just to close it out.
Yes, I mean, such a privilege and honor to have you with us today, Tara. And I'm so pumped that I got to be here with you. And I do encourage, do share your link to your TEDx talk into the comments and the post so everybody can go see it, because I encourage y'all to go see it. So many great takeaways. And yeah, rewatch, because there was a lot of golden nuggets that were dropped here. And as we always say, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're not here because we're trying to be private. So those are my final thoughts. And like I always end is, everyone, please go out and shine so bright that others can't help but shine too.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, especially Tara and Kelly. You made it all special, as you always do. Goodbye. See you tomorrow in 23 hours if you can make it. Another great show.